Well, hello everyone. I'm so glad you were able to join our session. I'm gonna start with doing some simple introductions. My name is Natalie Sokol, and I am the Assistant Director of an agency called the Pennsylvania Training and Technical Assistance Network out of the state of Pennsylvania, and we support the State Personnel Development Grant called SPELL. You can see behind me. Um, Success for PA Early Learners. And with me today is Nikki Huggins. She is one of our, I have to say, both of family members are volunteers, and they are, and I might get this wrong, but they are the co-chairs of the RFLC, which is the Regional Family Leadership Council of Families to the Max. So I want to introduce Nikki and Jill Housel. She's also another co-chair. So do you want to introduce yourselves, Jill and Nikki?
Sure.
Did I
Nikki,
get
you
it
want?
right first?
It's fine. We're chair and vice chair, but we really
Okay.
operate co-chairs the way we. So I'm Jill Housel. I'm really happy to be able to come today. I was not able to make the national meeting. Nikki was, so she has a little more background information about about what the work that you do. But I am the chair of Families to the Max, and I live in we always used to share where we live in the state because we are statewide, and I am a family member who has need to say children with disabilities and have navigated the special education system. Nikki?
I'm Nikki Huggan. I'm the Vice Chair of Families to the Max, and I have two children with disabilities that bring me to this work.
So I'm going to give a little context to, let me just go to this next screen. So I'm going to give a little context from where we were. Since I started, Families to the Max has been has been in Pennsylvania for this is our third SPDIG. So it was created in two SPDIGs ago, which was Project Max. That's where we get Families to the Max, and the focus of that project or that grant was to provide students with the most complex instructional needs access to the general ed curriculum, regardless of placement. And part of that, one piece of that work was our statewide family network. That was one of our goals, was to create a statewide family network. And it started with us partnering with our PTI and one of our CPRCs. So our PTI is Peel, and our CPRT, one of our CPRCs is HUNE. And the three of these organizations got together. We used grant funds to hire an external facilitator to facilitate the interactions between these three, the Bureau, Patton, and the two parent organizations. And when we look at this graphic, we think about, when we talk about separatedness, they were all only partners. There weren't real, like, family members obviously were a part of Peel and a part of HUNE, but they were paid partners. Those are, they weren't family members as a part of the work yet. And at that point in time, I would say we were doing more tuning, which is we didn't have a lot of authentic family engagement when we first started out. We were arguing is a strong word, but we were debating what was the mission of the work? What was the vision of the work? What was, how are we going to work together as a team? And we needed an external facilitator to help us do that work. So in its infancy, it was very separated. When it comes, and I'm going to try, I am filling in for Laura, so I'm not sure where Jill and Nikki are coming in. Jill, do you want to talk a little bit about
Sure.
at the beginning?
Yes, I can. So I was involved in the work from the beginning as far as a family perspective, and we were called a statewide family network. We did not have a name. We did not have a mission vision actually written out per se until really middle of that first SPDIG. Project Max. And
Mhm.
we did started bringing families together to talk about mission, vision, branding, what colors we're going to use. As you can see, we're green and white is what we landed on. But even as intimately involved as I was as a parent, as a family member, it took me probably a year and a half to wrap my head around what the mission, vision, what it was going to look like or potentially look like. And we basically threw around a lot of ideas of what it could look like before we landed on anything. And it was, I think, this reason to work together and action opportunities is really important for families if they don't see the reason why we should work together, or that we have something that we not only have to offer, but we have a voice, and that voice is being heard and listened to. That's where you'll see when Nikki takes the next section. We really weren't sure where we were going, and we all had to get on the same page and get the same vision, like where we were going. So it was a very arduous work in a sense, but very fulfilling to see where we were and now where we have become and will become.
And I'm going to back up just a tad because it took us probably the partners 2 years to get to where we were even inviting family
Right.
members in. It took us a while to figure out where we were going and start to have. We brought the family members in because they were part of our Project Max school-based teams. So that's how we initially identified. Like Jill was a part of one of our Families to the Max, not Families to the Max, our Project Max teams at one of our schools. And that's how we started bringing in families through the grant. That's what, through our work of the grant. But it took some time for us to get there and to bring the families together. And what Jill was referring to is that time when we first brought all the families together and we started to try to pull out what their thought the vision was, their thought the mission was, trying to get their authentically engage them. I'll go to the next slide. Nikki, do you want to speak a little bit to where we're at now?
So I can. So currently, we feel like we've moved up quite a bit on all four parts of the star, but we also know we have a lot of work left to do. This isn't done. We know that it will be ever evolving. And starting with separateness, listen, we know that when it started and it was just partners and there wasn't families yet, we know that that's obviously a separation. But we know that, and we said this at the national meeting, if families had been at that first table and saw the separateness of the partners, that they couldn't come to ideas together, that would have made this a much harder process. So starting with the partners and then working our way into families definitely helped us move up on this part of the star quicker. And obviously we're still working. We want to increase early intervention families. We want to increase linguistically diverse families. Like we have work to do, and we know that we do. As for tuning, listen, we are evolved. Well, I won't say completely because there's still moments where we need a lot more help, but we have evolved from a completely partner-led initiative to a regional family leaders council that's completely family led. Now we utilize our partners to help us get through the work because all of the council is volunteer. So we know that we need our partners and we know that we need them to help lead us through things. But that evolution has definitely brought us much further up on that part of the star. And for action opportunities, we have a very extensive work plan. It's a huge work plan, and we work through it with the help of our partners and our facilitator. And we're getting real work done every every day. We are doing things, and it's amazing. We have a forum every year that we develop our work plan and work on what our initiatives for the next year should be based on, you know, our grant. And the council itself, I mean, listen, we have elections, we have evolved this, so we know that that action opportunity has moved huge. It's a big difference. Listen, our reason to work together, we are seeing what that looks like. We're seeing that there's actual change happening. And I know Jill has been in this a lot longer than me, but in the 5+ years that I've been doing this, maybe 6, I can say that I have seen real change, and not just change for my own children, but systemic change across Pennsylvania. And I think that that's what keeps me going as a volunteer, and watching that part of the star move up. Um, I don't know, Jill, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I just would like to add, so all these points on the stars, where the stars are currently, and we're still growing, but is that we model, I think why we've been successful and our success will continue is because we do have authentic conversations and we're being heard, and we do see that action like Nikki's talked about. But we also use family strength. We're one of our parts of our mission is empowering families. And we use family strengths, right? Just like we're asking for educators to use our children's strengths to help them grow and become all they can be. We try to model similarly with our families, and our partners come alongside and do that work that keeps it rolling, keeps it bouncing, because things come up in our families, right? And we need to step back for a minute or two or a month or two, but yet it still keeps continuing. So that continuity is happening because of our partners and that support. And simple things like just setting up a Zoom meeting. We know how complex, it seems like a simple thing, but how complex and how much time that can take. So all these stars have all gone out towards the arrows, right? Because of the work that we're doing and that change that Nikki said we see happening, and families see that, and we can speak to that. And the collaboration is a linchpin of the work that we do, because we know special education can be challenging. And how do we help families work together to affect that change in a collaborative way?
I think we started with our partners arguing over an arrow at one point. I just remember that arrow that there's this graphic of an arrow that we have. And it took us forever to figure out what was the 3 statements on this arrow. I mean, that's how simple it started. And now today we have this family led. And when they say a work plan, I mean a serious work plan, it really it doesn't have our input in it. It is their work plan, and we're helping them implement the work plan.
Mm-hmm.
And these 2 ladies, I have to say, are not afraid and not shy to make sure that those things happen and advocate for what is in that work plan. So I'll give you an example. Um, they they have walked right up to our Bureau of Special Education Director, Carol Clancy, and started having conversations with her at one of our events, and she asked them to co-present with her at a conference. So they, we went from arguing over an arrow between these partners and going to a point where our families are presenting alongside our bureau director. So yeah, we've come a long way, and it's been 13 years
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we've been working on this partnership, and we have great things in the future. It's a part of every SPDIG for us now. It helps us focus the work and make sure we're family centered. I guess we have quite a bit of time. We have 20 minutes,
We
but we would love to answer questions. So if you have any
we
questions,
actually we have one more piece that we just
oh,
want to touch on before we
oh,
hit
please
that.
do. I'm
So
sorry.
that's okay. Laura had sent some key ingredients that I don't think we hit all of them.
Okay,
So
okay, please do.
I want to make sure that we talk about, Natalie talked about the external facilitator, and we definitely feel that that's a key ingredient to why this works, because it is someone who's very neutral in the process. Um, the development of shared core beliefs and common commitments, and living them, and finding families that also live them, and working through those. Um, And Natalie just touched on it, but it does take time. This does not happen overnight. It is truly, you have to have a lot of patience. If Jill has been in this since the beginning, and I can tell you, we have a few families who have stuck with this since the very beginning, and there, it has been hard and it has been slow, but now that it is family led and we see change happening, it's moving much faster. And I
Mhm.
think over time it will continue to move faster. Um, and like we talked about, the partners need to be on the same page before bringing families into the work. Um, really, because having that solid foundation of partners has helped us get to where we are today.
So I'd like to just open it up to see if anyone has questions. I mean, for us or for Jill or Nikki.
We could just continue talking. We do that.
Looks like Melissa unmiked.
Yes. So how did you go about recruiting your parents? Was it from something you sent out into the schools to recruit them, or what was your process for that?
So when in Project Max, when it first started, and that's where Jill started to participate, um, we had school teams, and they had to have like different representation. Well, one of the roles was a family member as a part of the school team, and that family member, the role we defined the role as someone that would represent all families with disabilities in the district. So that's where we started to recruit the families from. So we would bring those families, trying to bring those families together. That's how we first started recruiting. But then we also started to have, as as our recruitment grew, we started to um, have different. We have like a state conference, and then we started to have tables, and we were recruiting other families. So now we have can we say over 400 probably in the larger mix of families
Mhm.
that may not all may participate at they all participate at different levels in our database. But I would say, how many active families would you say we have now, Jill and Nikki, that are really engaged with the work?
I, I would say truly engaged, that would be like our forum list, right, Jill? So like
Yeah.
50.
50. Yeah, so we're still, so just to show, we didn't talk about future because that wasn't part of our thing, our
Yeah.
stars, right? But we're still working on our structure. So we are still in recruit, if you want to call it, Melissa, recruitment stage.
Hmm.
Um, so we're now talking about how we defining who are regional leaders in each part. We have 29 IUs in our state, and we are trying to have regional leaders in each of those IUs. So eventually be 58 regional leaders who would then be supporting their local leaders. So we know families are already affecting change, right? So we're just saying, hey, if this is something that you can give some time to, and we also honor any time a family can give, little or lot, because we know it's difficult, right? To give a lot of time, but so we so the other thing is that we're recruiting through family leaders, our regional family leaders that we currently have, those strong leaders that we already have, uh, are talking with their families in their area. And it's very organic. And that is part of who we are. It's very organic. Nikki
Yeah.
in her area, I think she has probably what, over 600 on her listserv just for her IU area.
760.
There you go, 760 in her area. Now they're not all in F2MAX's database, but they're
Mhm.
all being touched by F2MAX practices and principles. So it can look different in every area of the state because as we know, region, culture is different in every region in your state, I'm sure, right? You have very rural, you have very metropolitan or urban areas. And how do we reach families because it will look different? So that is why we're trying to grow to that local area. So we're recruiting that way in a sense. We have meetings, we have virtual meetings. Matter of fact, we have one tonight. So we have consistent outreach to families in many ways. We send out a newsletter, word of mouth, I think is very
Facebook.
important. Facebook, yes, we have a Facebook page. Nikki, what else am I missing?
I think when you touched on the organic outreach, I think it's about families talking to other families. As we're going through this, certainly we want like all of the schools to hand out our information, right? But it winds up being just a piece of paper to some families. It's the whole one family talking to another family and then coming and seeing that they believe the same things we believe. They believe in presuming competence for their child and having high expectations and really wanting them to be successful. And that's how we retain families as they come in.
Well, I just want to say thank you for all the resources. I've been researching Pennsylvania. I didn't even know you were going to be on here today for the last 2 days. And so I've been looking at all of I have my research over here on the other screen, but lots of family engagement resources for families. So I appreciate all your hard work that your teams have done on the technical assistance.
Oh,
Right.
thank you.
Yeah, and that's another great thing, I think, when families see things being put out. So what happens is we have our meetings, right? We can have a council meeting, a committee meeting, we can have a virtual, we have very informal meetings, we call them our virtual villages. We hear what families are saying and we say, hey, we think we can use a tip sheet on this. And then we build with Patton's assistant, our partner, help us build that. And Hune, the Spanish translation of that. So families see something, they can say something. I mean, I'm not saying it happens in 6 weeks or anything, but it happens, right? And the point is when families see action and they know they can use us as a resource, because that's primarily what we're a resource. We're not advocacy per se, but we can point families to the right direction to get the help they need when they need it. And that's really what and then knowing that we have these relationships with the Bureau, with Patton, Peel, Hune, it really gives credence to the value of family voice. And I think that's what makes us successful.
And I would say a big piece of the work too is the focus on partnering with our schools. So, we have these, challenging situations that happen between families and schools at times. And, our goal is to partner with schools and families, to have them that partnership. So there's this true engagement together. And I feel like the RFLC, the members that are really active understand that mission and work toward it. And I think when they're when we're working with schools, they're getting that feel too. So I think that's one of the big benefits as a state to have an organization such as Families to the Max is to, it reminds us it's the partnership, it's authentic engagement. We do a lot of, authentic family engagement is, decision making, presenting. We have family engagement modules that our family members present to other families. So we're elevating leaders. That's what our goal is, to have authentic family engagement. I think this helps with that.
I think too, one of the things that we haven't said at all, which is a big part of what we do too, is we coalition build throughout the state.
Yeah.
So there are things that will bring together entities from across Pennsylvania and say, hey, we want to hear what's happening. We want to know what's going on. And then from that, we actually have something written into this grant cycle from that work.
Right. So even to get specific about the spell grant, so ours is early literacy, like I think many of you also may be, right? In the planning for the NSEL, Natalie will have to tell me what that stands for again. National Council for something literacy.
National Center for Literacy.
See?
National
Whatever.
Center for
Improving literacy.
There you go. Thank you. Improving literacy. Acronyms always get you, don't they? But anyway, so they were presenting to our spell to Laura Bray and that group and saying, what what do you think as families? So Nikki and I were a part of that conversation. What do you think families would benefit from knowing or be presenting differently, perhaps, than what they were thinking? And we had input into that, and then it looks maybe a little different. And knowing that this is what this would be the best way to reach families. So we're involved in, like Nikki said, many things with this coalition building, with specifically with the Spell Grant, with that family voice, that family perspective that sometimes not everybody gets because they're working. I don't know how to explain it without being, I don't want to be insulting at all. When you're a paid professional, right? And sometimes you're not, and some of us all, I know some of you may have children with disabilities, but if you're not in the nitty gritty, sometimes you don't realize all the nuances of what families are going through, or what how they would want to receive information, so on and so forth. So I think that really makes a difference too, and that authentic family engagement.
Do we have other questions? Thoughts? Things that you're doing at in your regions that that or things you'd like to focus on, or reflections?
Question about your virtual meetings. When you all
Sure.
have those, I was curious how long they are and kind of how they're run. Do you have like guided questions and it's a facilitated discussion, or do the parents identify their topics, or the kind of self-selected themes that you cover? I was just kind of curious what that looks like in the this new virtual world.
Okay, so we have several different virtual kind of meetings. So one is we do foundational courses. So we have foundational courses that were born out of the Project Max SPDIG grant from 2 cycles ago. We have 2 more courses that were from the last SPDIG. So they're more formal. We have a PowerPoint presentation, and it's an hour. We try and keep things an hour long, get much more than an hour. It takes too much time from our families' daily lives. We do try to offer afternoon, usually a lunchtime, and maybe a 7 o'clock an evening. We find that seems to work the best. So those, there are question answers at the end. People can ask questions in the middle, but that's a little more formal. Then, like I mentioned, we have virtual villages, which is much more casual. However, they're led by a family leader, usually a council member, supported by a partner. There's always 2, a partner and a family leader at all of these. The virtual meetings are more casual. What we focus on there are talking point. We basically we let the family member even pick what is it they want to talk about, but it's usually tied to our common commitments. You heard somebody say, I can't remember, I think
Nikki said
said about our common commitments. We take, like, for instance, presuming competence. Our family leader will share a story of what that looked like for them in their school, a situation, a positive, collaborative situation. And then families that's the talking point then. Oh, what have you found success in that? What did you find work? And that's a much more casual, more conversational. And that is also still an hour. We offer them, those we do offer, I believe, only in the evening. Is that correct, Nikki?
They're both, but
They're
not
both.
like, yeah, it's not all the time.
So there are 2 in our
We also
online.
have committee meetings
Right.
where we bring together anybody who is signed up in our database or not. And those are pretty formal. Those are us going over items that are happening within our work plan. And then we usually try to break out for at least a half an hour. Those meetings are a little longer. They're usually an hour and a half or 2 hours. And they're actual work meetings. We do work at them.
And those are run by, usually led by either the facilitator or external facilitator is still involved. And sometimes if she's not available, I'm sure Jackie, one of our statewide leads, probably helps out where it's needed.
Yes. And Jill and I usually work those meetings with them,
Sure.
and offer council members sections. If they're part of the work plan is moving forward, we allow them to pick that time and say, I'm going to take this 15 minutes and talk about the work that's been completed in this section of the work plan.
Does that answer your question? Another thing, just I don't know if it's important or not, but I think it's important. We also do have full team meetings, which our partners, our manage the people, our fiscal, the people who hold our money, as it were, right? Like Natalie, come to meetings once a month also. And then we have just a partner lead meeting, which is that higher level of the thing, and just making sure that everything we're doing is aligned with the grant, right? So we do have all these, and which Nikki and I attend, our council members can attend those also. So yeah,
And
so
we have
just
grant goals
Mhm.
specific to Families to the Max. So making sure that we're meeting those goals as well.
Really helpful. Thanks so much.
Oh, you're welcome. We do, if I can think of it, put in in the chat our, do you want to include Jill or Nikki? Can you put in the Facebook page and and
course.
maybe our website? That might be, if you want to take a glance at that, that might be helpful. I don't have it off the top of my head otherwise. I know you guys go to the I'm not a Facebook person.
I'm not either. Nikki's our Facebook person and that. So and so we just I don't know if anybody have any more questions. We could talk on this forever. You can tell we're very passionate about this work.
Well, I just want to thank you all for joining us today. I know I also thank Nikki and Jill. I mean, they have children of their own with disabilities, and I know they put a lot of time, volunteer a lot of their time to do this work for Pennsylvania, but they know they're doing it for a lot of other kids and a lot of other families, and I know that's part of their mission. So just want to publicly thank them in this context as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for the work you're doing.
Yeah, and if ever you want to reach out to us. I mean, we're like, if you're really wanting to get, something like this in your state, if you don't already have anything or whatever,
You could join a meeting, listen in.
yeah.
We'd be fine with that. Our leadership meetings and our actually our full team meetings, I think, are kind of interesting with with the work plan and everything. And our commitments. I mean, we have lots of um, guidance documents that could help you maybe think about how you might get started.
How would we contact you? Or could I give you my information and someone connect with me?
Yeah.
I'll put
Yes.
it in the chat there.
Okay, we got.
We got 22 seconds. If you don't if that doesn't come through, just reach out to me in the chat and I will make sure.
There it
Melissa
is.
McClendon.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Titled 16 Things to Make Those EBPD Blues Go Away. So with that, we're just now at 5 to the top of the hour. So I'll reopen the rooms and you all can reselect which rooms you want to go into. And we will come back at West Coast time, 1:25. We'll see you all shortly.
Where do we select?
It should be available to select now.
John, do we hit record twice?
You don't have to actually. Jason, with the 16 things, since that's a new session, he's going to record again. But just one recording is plenty for the repeat sessions.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.